One. Hey, everybody, welcome to That's Good Stuff, our show where we take deep dives into pop culture's newest releases. And this week, the newest release, well, it's last week for you guys, but it was Twisters from the director Lee Isaac Chung, who you might remember from Minari. We reviewed one time a long time ago.
He directed
Really?
that?
Yeah, and he also did
Huh.
some
He
Mandalorian
he
episodes.
loves Oklahoma.
The story was by Joseph Kaczynski. You might have heard that name.
Sounds familiar.
Tron and Top Gun, Maverick.
I did notice all the neon parallels.
in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
It stars Daisy Edgar Jones. She plays Kate, right?
Yeah.
It stars Glenn Powell, America's favorite boy at the moment, doing cowboy things. It has Anthony Ramos as the character no one likes in this movie. I don't know. You guys may have liked him, but
Is that Javi?
yeah.
Oh.
I dislike him.
It's hard to take him like seriously when I've seen him in like Hamilton, and I'm like, okay, when are you gonna start breaking out into a political rap?
So Twister came out in
When he
19...
wants.
We all remember Twister. It was part of our youth. Came out in 1996 by John DeBont, who directed Speed. Speed and Twister was his claim to fame.
Written by Michael Crichton.
Yep. He got a credit in this one too.
Yeah,
I saw his name.
character based on. Yeah.
Will we ever get an American sounding director's name making these movies?
Yeah, not anymore.
No.
Not anymore, Jared. So yeah, what was your opinion of the first Twister, real fast? You guys just told me it freaked you guys out, which I didn't know.
You look ready to talk about it, Thomas. Go ahead.
Well, like the first Twisters movie scared the living crap out of me when I was a kid, because like I went through like tornado drills all the time because we used to be in Tornado Alley up here in Lubbock, and which is funny because like in this new one, like they obviously have like West Texas highlighted as Tornado Alley. I'm just like, no, we're not there anymore. But
we're due for one, Thomas. We're due for one.
That's what they always say.
They always say that, but it never happens. Like a tornado hit Lubbock in the 70s and it killed a bunch of people.
It was the first F5. That's the first time they used that category was when they hit Lubbock.
Lubbock? Really?
Yeah.
I know my grandpa's shop or my abuelito's shop got like completely destroyed when it happened. But yeah, like it scared the crap out of me when I was a kid. But I rewatched it recently and I still love that movie though, because like you got Philip Seymour Hoffman as Dusty and Bill Paxton is just, they're great together. R.I.P. You got that awesome food scene, just a steak this thick, and then mashed potatoes and all that gravy and eggs.
That plate must have weighed like 2 pounds.
Oh, I know. Well, one of my favorite parts is like, oh, where'd you get all this beef from? Aunt, I forgot her name. Is it Pat? I forgot.
I don't remember her name.
But
yeah.
the aunt anyway. She's like, you see my cows out front? And you're like, no. And she's like, oh. But yeah, no, I love that movie, but it did scare the crap out of me when I was a kid.
Jared, did you love it?
No. Meg. Her name is Meg.
Meg, yeah.
We watched it in 1996 era before we moved to Texas, and I was like, that's creepy. I don't like the wind coming after you and getting you. And then we moved to Texas, and there was like tornado watches like the first week we were here.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh my God, it's over. And then you grow up here and you're like, tornado watches are nothing.
Yeah.
And then
the normal wind is crazy.
Yeah.
When it's a warning, then you look outside and go,
Is it a wall cloud? Nah, it'd be fine.
But living here, it's been fine. When we lived in Kansas, there was like one across the street, and I was like, dang. But yeah, I like the first one because of the breakfast scene, and just I wanted one of those steaks and that plate of mashed potatoes.
Dude, that's so much mashed potatoes in that.
And then
You're
I was
just like,
watching it. I was watching it this time, and I was like, "Are all these people using that one shower? It's gonna be disgusting." And then this is like the first time I saw The Shining, because they were watching it at
Yeah.
the drive-in, and my mom was like, "Don't look," even though nothing happens. But I was like, I think that's what spurred it. I was like, I need to know what happens to these two
That's-
twins.
That scene specifically is pretty like creepy though. Like the
Danny.
the tornado is like in the background is like
Oh yeah.
tornadoes growl apparently, by the way. They roar.
Oh yeah, they do. They make noises. All right, so it's time to talk about the new one because we saw it. So the new one is about a young woman named Kate, and she was just living life, man. These were the happiest people I have ever seen in my life. They were just so happy.
No one can be that. Nature had to stop that. They're too happy.
They were too happy. She had a boyfriend that was just always like, "Oh, I love everything."
Dude looked like a model. He had like those greenish eyes, and then he was just like really big and buff. And you're like,
Probably
dang,
was a model.
dang,
Man.
dang, Kate.
So they're a little college group. They're having great times, and they're studying. I almost said volcanoes. That's a different movie.
I thought you were
They're
gonna say
stu-
Vulcan twins or something.
They're studying twisters, and she's got the brilliant idea that hey, let's pour a lot of gunk in the twister and kill the twister and dissipate it so it doesn't hurt no more people. And they're like, that's a great idea. Spoilers, because people stuff's about to go down.
No,
so-
and the tornado.
Yeah, up
Not true. They find
and dragged away.
they find some wind and they go chase the wind because they think it's going to be a tornado, and it does. And they're like, "Oh, it's a little tornado. We can do this. We can absolutely do this." Call back to the old movie. They have Dorothy with them. If you remember, Dorothy was that big trash can that had little sensor balls in it. We don't really explain the connection to them and Dorothy, but they're there. So they're gonna release, but the tornado, man, it just keeps lifting. The guy's like, it's up in the stratosphere now, or something like that. It's like, get out of there. It turns into like a F5. I don't know what it was. It an F5?
It was an F5.
Yeah, F5.
It turns into an F5, and they're little trailered tips. They don't even get to release the stuff, and they all gotta run, and it starts sucking up her friends, and they're screaming, and they look at an underpass, and they're like, underpasses are the worst for tornadoes, even though they always go under them in these movies. So they run and they go under the underpass.
I've seen that in real life. Cars just go into the underpass and stop.
That's
Well-
one thing these both of these movies don't get is that the wind doesn't kill you in a tornado. It's the
No,
debris.
Yeah. Whoever
I like
wrote this movie was from California.
Oh yeah,
'Cause
definitely.
you could tell. One of the first lines is, we're gonna get in trouble for this, but one of the first lines is like, "I love
I
Oklahoma."
love
Oh,
Oklahoma.
yeah.
I'm like,
I
nobody
turned
has-
I turned
nobody
to
has
Jonah.
ever
I was
said
like,
that.
"Ugh."
Yeah, nobody has
No
ever
one
said
has
those
ever
lines.
said that phrase.
I'm sorry. We have a Texan, a New Mexican, and an Arizonian here. Nobody in this podcast likes Oklahoma. I'm sorry if
We've
you
been
are
there
from
a few
Oklahoma.
times and just
And
I know, we're sorry.
every time it has sucked. Like
It's a
God.
It's a Texas-based podcast, so just blame it on that if you are in Oklahoma. And you,
Hell,
you do
Mike-
wait.
Michael's from Colorado, and he's probably
Yeah.
like, no, screw Oklahoma.
If you are watching and you do wake up every morning and say, "I love Oklahoma," then we're sorry. But
We're sorry.
we just
show us
doubt
that
your
part
existence.
of Oklahoma.
We're sorry. Life is already tough for you.
Dang.
I'm from
We-
Texas. I don't give a crap.
We just doubt your existence, okay?
Oh, there was a line too when they're driving through the spot. She's like, "Oh, you've been a chicken ever since you got hit by lightning."
Oh yeah.
He is a lightning rod. He's 100% more likely to get hit again. I was like, "What are you talking about? You're
That
all
is-
in danger."
That is something I've like come across in like reading and stuff. Is that people who have already been hit by lightning
Yeah.
are more likely to get hit multiple times. It's
Mhm.
so. It's like, oh, okay, God hates you apparently.
There's that poor dude that got hit like 7 times.
17
Yeah,
times.
7 times. Yeah.
And we find out that Kate's kind of a liar because I'll point out some other stuff she says. Um, but okay, so her friends are getting sucked up in this tornado, and it's just like her and her boyfriend and one other. It's like a girl, I think, the nerdy girl, right? And they're
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
running up to the underpass, and the nerdy girl's having all kinds of trouble trying to get up this little cliff, and
Cliff.
so the guy has to go back for her, but she
Mm-hmm.
gets sucked up, and he's like, "Oh no!" And then he runs and he like covers Kate.
I got you,
because-
Kate. I got you.
Yeah, we're fine. We're fine. But he's a big liar because he gets sucked right up, even though she doesn't. She weighs like 80 pounds, but nothing can stop this lady. So all her friends get sucked up. Meanwhile, her other friend named Javi, he's kind of the tech guy, and he's over in the truck and just like listening to all this stuff, and everyone's dead. So we flash forward a little bit. Kate's
And-
working in New York.
Before we get there, Javi, you can tell, has a thing for Kate because they have
Yeah.
their little
Oh, yeah.
handshake, and,
And then he,
was
like,
like
looks
real
at
into
her,
her. Yeah,
Looks
looking at
when
her
she's
butt, and he's
leaving.
like, "Yeah." And my mom, you could tell. I mean, she's. I was like, he had a thing for her back then. She's like, "What? No," and I was like, "Yes,
Yes.
You can tell. He
Pretty sure he had a thing for her in the future too.
poor
Mhm.
guy though. He runs into models. His competition is models. So Kate grows up, goes to New York where they don't have weather. I'm sorry they do have weather, but
It's just cold. That's
yeah,
all
it's
it
just
is there.
wet.
Yeah.
They always have like one day of freak weather, and that's about it."
And she's working for what the weather service. I don't. What's the what?
Ooh.
Yeah. So she's always getting things wrong.
Yeah, but
But
say well, like that was like the. I'm sorry, that's the most inaccurate part where they're like, "Oh, accurate weather predictions in the National Weather Service." I'm like, "Yeah, since when?"
but she's the most right of the wrong people because this guy's like, "Oh, I'm gonna call the alarm," and she's like, "No, don't do that. It's gonna dissipate." And they're like, "Okay, we believe you, Kate." So she's working there, and they're like, "Hey, you got someone in the conference room waiting for you." And she walks in, and it's Javi, and he's like, "Hey, missed you. Been trying to. I've been like emailing you every night, and you just haven't been answering." And she's like, "Oh, yeah, I don't have time for you."
Haven't taken the hint yet.
Yeah. So he's like, "Hey, let's go get coffee." They go get coffee, or they go to a restaurant or something. And
There's
he's
a
like,
cafe.
"There's a cafe, yeah." And he's like, "Hey, I'm part of this new group, and we need you, man, because you're the best, man." And
It's
you-
like, Lovey, what? Nothing.
What?
he's like, "Watch my little tornado trick in the water," and she's like, "We all did that as kids."
Doesn't even last long.
Yeah, he does that little tornado trick. He's like, "All right, now watch this," and it like disappears. I'm just like, "Okay."
He should have set those up and then
And then
did
did
the
the
Then
tornado.
did it.
What
Yeah.
an idiot! No
No
wonder
wonder
she
he
doesn't
doesn't
love
get
him.
the girl. So he's like, "Yeah, look at these creamers. I put the creamers on each side, and that's what we're gonna do to tornadoes. Pick creamers on each side of a tornado."
I don't mean to derail the pod or the show, but I was like, are these creamers? And then I look closely. They're like jam because they're like rectangle.
Oh,
Creamers
okay.
are usually cylinder. So I was like, those aren't creamers. Those they have to be jam or something.
And then he asked the cafe person. He's like, "Can I have some of those?" And
Hey, my
she's like-
man, can I borrow these? He says.
And she's like, "It's New York. It probably cost you like $50 to borrow those or something like." So Kate lies again because she's like, "Hey, people in New York are so friendly," and they're like running her over and stuff like that.
It was obviously a joke, Joe. So she.
She's a big liar. And he's like,
I say
"So-
we're friendlier here, but I spent like a good 2 minutes bashing Oklahoma, so not sorry though.
true."
I mean, but it's Oklahoma, so
It is
everyone-
Oklahoma. So.
So he can't really convince her right away. What does convince her? She goes home.
She has
She has that dream.
Yeah.
Oh, she has a dream. What was the dream about?
The boyfriend was like next to her when she was waking up. He's like, I got you, and then he got swept away.
I guess that's enough to convince her. She's like, "Yeah, I'm going back." So it's back to Oklahoma. They go, and their new little group of nerds, weather nerds,
Hmm.
with the new Superman we just found out. He's the guy who looks like Carrie Ellis in the first one. Yeah, he's pretty much that character, but he's like the sidekick this time to Javi
that
is-
was Javi's like, we got all these PhDs, masters, people that work from NASA. I'm like, cool. So none of these people have worked a day in their life. Awesome. Sweet.
he's from like MIT, and but they need Kate because she's got the touch, she's got the power. So they stop at
Yeah.
they all meet at the Allsups to have a little meeting.
I was like, oh no, Joseph's gonna get his Bucky's.
It's an Allsups, you can tell. So they're all there,
I
and
get
then
those
they
burritos.
meet, and then the Southerner guys come. You got the Southern guys, and then the even more Southern guys come, and that's Glenn Powell's group.
I
I'm
thought for
so-
sure they're gonna say, look at the Texans.
I'm sorry, but when he's like, oh yeah, he's out from Arkansas, and Glenn Powell starts talking, I'm like, no, he's not.
No, he's not.
That
I was
is-
like, no.
That is a Texan accent right there. Like, because I'm sorry, I've like talked to people from Arkansas, and you can definitely tell they're from Arkansas. It's
Yeah,
like,
I
oh,
mean, why
Lord.
didn't they just make him Texan? I
don't know. Like that would make it even funnier if he was dissing or
Dude,
bashing
people in the
Oklahoma
theater
whole
would have been
time.
like, woo!
So
F Oklahoma.
maybe that's why.
They had to cut out all of Glenn Powell like just bashing Oklahoma.
So he shows up in his Dodge Ram that looks like the Ram from the other one. And
Cool
these
looking
guys,
truck, though. Not gonna lie.
these guys are like YouTubers, right? So they got
Yeah.
like their own.
She was very
YouTube.
belittling to YouTube.
Yeah, she didn't believe in YouTube.
Do you just do YouTube? He's like, we have like 1 million subs. Like,
You
what
get
are you
those
talking about?
little videos.
And he's got his face on shirts, and they're selling all kinds of swag, and they're just having a great old time, man. They're like the original Twister team. They're just these happy guys.
Like the soul skaters of
Probably
tornadoes.
Yeah, probably a little bit on drugs. Maybe a little hippie-ish.
That one explosive expert dude, definitely.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
definitely on something.
But yeah, so they go around. They're storm chasers, or what do they call them? Storm wranglers.
Wranglers.
The Wranglers.
Tornado Wranglers.
Tornado Wranglers. So they go around and they just do YouTube videos. And in this world, you could just like stand in a tornado. And they have this British guy with them because he's doing an article on American storm chasing.
Dude, was Ben the low-key best character?
Yes, Ben was great.
Ben was all right.
He had a character arc. He wore cowboy stuff at the end. So he was like the guy from the Bike Riders. He just joined the group, the gang after a while. So where were we? Kate goes off. She's like, hey, that tornado, that's gonna be a tornado place. And Glenn's like, no, that's not a tornado place. And she's like, yeah. They keep tricking each other because she wants to be right. And then so they go to the left, and hey, she said to go to the right, and she goes to the left. They follow the tornado. It's time to set up the first little trap for the tornado, but Kate gets cold feet, and she's like,
you forgot what to tell what she's doing. She's doing the 3D imaging of tornadoes.
yeah, they want to see.
He got this like prototype military tech for this random job. I was like, I don't know if he'd be able to have that stuff.
Well, they
Probably
get a rich benefactor, we find out. They're funded by this guy who's like goes around chasing after the tornado and like offering people
Got themselves some corporate sponsorship.
Yeah,
Got-
he offers people money for their land and stuff.
Doug Dimmadome, ready
Yeah.
to buy your land.
So yeah, she gets cold feet because they're there to image it, and she's like, "Whoa, that's way too close. Let's get out of here." And Javi's like, "We're not even that close, man. We're too far." And then Glenn's group goes in and pretty much drives through the tornado, shoots off some fireworks. They have having a great old time.
That was kind of cool. Like, are those fireworks? Yep, yep, they are.
Laughing at Kate's group. So she's like, "Ugh, I gotta get better. Gotta get brave again." So the movie goes on. She finds out a little bit more about Glenn's group and her group, and she finds out, hey, maybe Javi isn't such a great guy. I mean, he's a good guy, but he's totally sold out. And she doesn't like that they're buying up people's land and homes and stuff like that.
Used
So
to be about the music. I mean, the tornadoes. So
Did we skip the part where she's like, "You just do this to sell shirts and crap,"
shirts.
and then he's like, "It's not what it looks like." Then he walks off, and the girl immediately after,
Yeah.
"Oh, I got this food that we pay for the shirts and stuff. That's what we do with the proceeds." It's like you don't. She didn't have to wonder at all. She got the.
I know, right after. It
and
reminds
you
me
could
of
tell this was a screw you to Oklahoma because in those refugee like little pamphlet or not pamphlets, but
Care pack?
box, yeah, care package. It was a bag of Fritos on there too. So it's like, guess what? Texas is like thankful. Like, here you go.
Dang,
Fritos.
Thomas, taking a little too far.
No, never.
what was I gonna say? I
don't know.
forgot. There was something that kept coming up. Maybe you guys will remember what I'm trying to think of. Anyway, so we go through the movie. She kind of bonds with Glenn. He takes her to a rodeo. They're having a good old time. Tornado almost eats them.
He's that one couple. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
They're like, "Don't get in the car," and they get in the car, and a tornado eats them. They get in a pool, and the pool works. So
That poor hotel manager too.
No, he
God.
told him, "Don't stand up," and he's like, "No, I got this." Whee!
Don't stand up. So the attack that she lives through again gets her thinking that she doesn't know what to do. So she goes home to that lady who was
Oh.
on a Jim Carrey movie.
We forgot to mention when after that tornado, Javi comes like, you wrote it out with
Oh yeah.
him.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, my guy, she just like survived a tornado.
You just said all your friends died because of her. She's not gonna want to make out with you.
You're with him?
You're with him. Meanwhile, he's like all disheveled. He just like watched like 3 people die. And he's just like,
so she goes back home to reevaluate, and Glenn just can't get enough of her. So he shows up there, and they kind of reminisce about her childhood, where she was working on that plan to, make tornadoes go away. She had like this whole little town she made in a fake tornado that she made in her little barn. And Glenn's like, "This is a great idea. Let's do it." And she's like, "No, it didn't work. Everyone got eaten."
My boyfriend died.
Yeah. And he's like, "Okay, let's eat dinner." So they eat dinner.
he's like, but I'm hotter. I'm just saying.
The dinner didn't look as good as the original dinner.
It was like 2 strips of brisket and like a little bit of sausage. I was like, this is terrible. This is inflation.
There was no gravy. There was no mashed potatoes.
Is this like they went to
sides.
Dickies or something?
Yeah.
And Rudy's and got some.
I know. There's no way she made that in like 2 or 3 hours.
She even has cows on her farm. Like, that's all the meat you could come up with? Really?
It's the big disappointment.
What an insult.
It's like she
What
just
an insult
got
to
Rudy's
Meg's
order.
steaks, man.
So finally they kind of convince each other. Glenn gives her a big old speech, and it's time to get back into the game. So they're like, "Yeah, let's do this." They drive out to like a tornado, and they try it, and it doesn't work, right? It doesn't work the first time.
Not enough sodium.
Yeah,
Whatever it was.
There's not enough. I think she said there's not enough dew points to where like there's enough for the. What kind of material were they using? Sodium something.
Sodium something.
And there wasn't enough moisture in the air to actually take effect because it was just being blown away. There wasn't enough to grab onto it.
Isn't it what they use to seed clouds? They silver iodide.
That's what they needed to make it more moist.
Yeah, that's what they needed afterwards. What they figure out they needed to be more wet.
Yeah, they need it to rain. They got to get it to rain. So they come up with that plan, and they're ready to go to the next one. And they're driving over there, and Javi's over there too. But the next one's nuts because it like takes over a refinery, and it's like on fire and electricity at the same time. It's crazy, and Javi almost gets killed. His truck like tips over, and they're like, "Don't leave him." So Glenn's like, we're not leaving him, but we gotta leave. So they back up a little bit and just watch, and then they go back and get him. And then so they go to the town. What was the town called? It's a town.
Reno.
Reno.
Is it
Or
Reno?
is it or El Reno?
It's
El
El
Reno.
Reno.
El Reno.
Yeah.
Okay.
I send
Familiar
stuff there
sounding.
like all the time.
Yeah, familiar sounding town to people
what?
who.
I send stuff there all the time.
No.
A
For work.
familiar sounding town to people who live over here. But so this is the end act. The tornado's coming. They were like, "Hey, it shifted. It's going after the town. We gotta go help them."
It's maliciously attacking the town.
Yeah, that's how it was in this one. It's like it had vendettas against people. They're even like, "It's attacking the people we love."
Sorry. I'm not gonna. Never mind. Nothing. Mm-mm.
So they go to this town. They're like, we got to warn them, forget the science experiment, which is to help these people get out of here. They're like evacuating the town to get everyone to a movie theater, which wasn't a great idea because it didn't have a basement. So it's gonna kill everybody. Kate decides to run off and steal someone else's truck because she likes to steal people's trucks.
That's a bad habit. She should give.
Yeah.
So she drives and she faces down the tornado, and the tornado is gonna eat all that stuff up. And then she's in the truck, and it's like it takes a while for it to work, but it finally does, and she kills a tornado.
I like how she's like in it, not getting sucked up. Just tips a little at one point. That's all that happens. It's like an F5. It's like as big as the town, and the truck just tips. It's
Well, she
fine.
got those drill things, man.
That only
Audrey's-
goes like a foot deep. He says 2 feet. It went 1 foot in there.
So she becomes the first lady in the history of the world to defeat a tornado. And that pretty much ends the movie. She goes to the airport to go back to New York to tell them the findings. And they're like, they're never going to believe you, you know? And she's like, I know, but we got to try. And Glenn's there, and he's like, "Oh, I don't want you to leave. Oh, I want to see you again." And she goes into the airport, and she's like, "You got to chase it if you feel it," or something like that.
That was his saying. She used his own words against him.
Reverse it, Joseph. Reverse it.
And Javi's like, "Yeah, you can have her," and he's like, "Yay!"
Of course, Glenn's like, "Yeah, she was never yours to give away, though."
Oh, are you trying?
And then he runs in there, and they look at each other and smile, and the movie ends.
Oh yeah, he gave the mom a shirt.
She
Yeah,
gives
sure.
the mom a shirt.
Sure.
I bet she's wearing it right now.
Probably.
All right, so that was Twisters. What the heck did I forget? There was something I kept wanting to bring up, and I didn't bring up. What was it, guys?
What was it about?
Something in this world. Oh, it was about. Okay, so in the first movie, the whole thing was to get Dorothy up into the air so they could get data to predict tornadoes better, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in this movie, it's like none of that data helped at all. They
Yep.
still can't predict tornadoes worth the darn.
Even like Javi's like at the beginning, it's like, "Oh yeah, we have all this data, but we still can't predict it because apparently the motion of the sensor it doesn't predict how fast the wind is going." Shouldn't that though?
So the
If
whole
you
first movie
if you
didn't matter.
measure something by how fast it's moving in the air because you have like the data tracking it, like shouldn't you be able to do that?
Yeah,
But
you think you could science that stuff, or math, I guess.
Just guess.
Use your physics minds. So the whole first movie didn't matter, and I guess if they made a third movie, that's not going to matter because, like they said at the end, they probably just don't believe her that stuff works. So
the
we'll have to
third
see.
movie be called
That's a good question.
Twisting. I don't know.
Twisters, twisted
Twisted.
Twins.
triplets, twistlets.
You didn't mention Superman being evil.
Oh
at the end.
yeah, so
Oh, yeah.
Superman was super evil. Kasavi's like, dude, we gotta go help the town. He's like, I don't care about people. I don't care. I just want to make the money.
He's just like money.
And Javi just leaves him. He probably died. He just left him out in the middle of the field.
Yeah, I was gonna say that guy is dead, and then there's the part in the movie theater. Two people get sucked up, but at the end, when Kate's like defeated the tornado with her fist, she was like, "Is everyone okay?" And they're like, "Yeah, everyone's safe." Those people are dead. Like,
well, everyone right here is safe.
everyone now is okay.
Okay. What did you guys think? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What were your issues? Go ahead.
Go ahead, Jared.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was entertaining. I don't think it was as good as the first one. There's definitely a lot of like, oh man, younger people kind of stuff in
Vibes.
it. Yeah. And it was definitely like Joseph said that someone from like California wrote this. Because there's a lot of stuff you're just like, no one from this area would do that. And then like the whole Glenn Powell should have been Texan.
I know.
They were so Texan. It was like I don't know why they refused to call them what they were.
It's one of those things like you can definitely tell you're not from Tennessee.
I've worked with those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Glenn Powell. He's always good. I like when he's really cocky, like in Top Gun. Yeah. The main chick was good. Javi was good. He did that part perfectly. He really liked her, but she didn't give a crap. And he just kept trying. Kept trying, but he was seduced by the dark side. He was like, I do get a lot of money.
Tight polos and a lot of money.
Maybe he thought more money would get her. That's never the answer, guys.
If you're working and you have to wear a polo, it's an evil company. I found that out from this movie.
Make you wear a polo.
Yeah, that's the sign of corporate greed or something. But yeah, I don't think it's that much worse than the first one. I thought it was just as entertaining. The only real negative was the food. I was like, just this little spread of like barbecue. I was like, what the heck?
And I'm sorry, that's not even from Rudy's, Joseph. That's like straight up like Dickie's barbecue. That's like, wow, that's what $29.99 gets you. Wow. Okay.
I mean that movie is known for that. Like people have done YouTube videos on that meal, and like
they brought it up in one of the like previews to this movie, like at Cinemark, where they talk to the actors. And they're like, "Hey, what do you remember about that?"
Oh yeah,
I remember that meal, and they totally dropped the ball.
And they just didn't do anything.
Food.
So
what a letdown.
Yeah, and then that's another. It didn't have Philip Seymour Hoffman, he was perfect in that first movie.
Or Bill Paxton.
What was Bill Paxton's name in the first movie? Bill,
yeah, Billy.
I could not. But I was trying to watch. I was watching. I was like, "What was his name in that movie?"
Billy.
But we went yesterday, and it was all like dark clouds and raining, and I was like, "This was the worst time to decide to go to this." But yeah, I enjoyed it.
Thomas?
Yeah, no, I really like this movie. Okay, this is a great date movie. Took a date to it, but I have to say that Glenn Powell kept, distracting my date. I was just like, "Hey, bro, cut it out."
Glenn Powell can have any woman if he wants. Did you see that guy?
I know.
When the white shirt, when he's walking out in the rain.
Everybody's freaking out about that white shirt. I swear to God, like every time, like whoo, whoo, whoo. Like the theater I went to was packed, and like when he came out in the white shirt, literally every like woman went whoo. But no, I really liked the story. I thought it was pretty solid. Didn't really rely too much on like the old one, so it was a good, like, not a sequel, but just kind of not exactly a reboot, but just a continuation. That was pretty good.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of fan service, but there wasn't.
Yeah, just with Dorothy, that's about it, really. So I thought they kind of tread that line pretty well. I like the characters. I really like the two main characters, Glenn. I don't know, Glenn and Kate. I don't. Glenn is not the character's name.
Tyler.
Yeah. The creator.
I like the chemistry they had. I like how they were.
That would be an awesome movie.
Now that would be a whole different movie. I like the evenness of it, I guess. Like they were both competent, but they didn't like overshadow each other. Even though Ben's like, he's like, oh, she's kind of fascinating. And
Yeah.
Glenn's just like, I want a copy of that photo, dude.
Ben really wanted her. He
I
was
know.
like,
But no, I thought it was a lot of fun. The soundtrack is really good. Me and my brother kind of been jamming out to that because he's really into like new country, and I'm trying to get into a little bit into that. But I liked it. So yeah, overall, I really enjoyed the movie. It was a lot of fun to watch. It was a lot of fun to watch in the theater too. So
Yeah. It was a fun movie. I had problems with the ending. It like Jared said, it didn't do a lot of fan service.
it should have been, by the way, to go kill the tornado. It should have been both of them to do it.
Yes, that was my
Like
problem.
it should have been both
Yeah.
of them.
I'm like, why is Tyler in the theater? Why is
Well, even like Tyler's just going like,
it
because
was
she has a disgusting habit of stealing men's trucks. It's
It
like,
was
what are you
the-
doing?
it was good because it was their story. You know, they
yeah.
joined forces to make it work, and then at the end, she just goes and gets all the glory. It was very it frustrated me, that ending.
She tests me.
And even if they wanted her in the driver's seat, that would be fine. If he was like in the passenger, he just needed to be there. There was
Just like in the first movie, she drove most of the end
Mhm.
part of the
yeah,
movie.
they could have just did the movie. It does well. It doesn't like. It's not a, like. They're not like the. Everyone thought they were going to be like the kids of the characters from the first
Yeah.
movie. They weren't that, but it did kind of follow the story arc of the first movie. Except for that ending, it just drove me nuts that he wasn't there for her. And then these girls, they grew up on farms, right? And they're like the scrawniest girls ever. I mean, I'm like, how is she digging that hole? There's no
Okay.
way she's digging that hole.
So I didn't know that this actress was British, by the way.
Oh yeah, easy.
And couldn't have guessed that. But she puts on like a heavy like Southern accent. They keep calling her city girl. I'm like, are you blind?
I know.
Like,
I was like, what do you keep calling her?
she's got a heavier accent than I do, dude.
That was funny.
It's like when you watch Walking Dead and you're like, that guy's British?
Carl.
The most southern man I've ever seen, and he's British?
Carl.
But she's mysterious. She never tells him about herself because she doesn't want him to know. See, you have to go eat her mom's barbecue if you want to learn anything about this girl.
That mom did not make that barbecue. That was a takeout.
Like I said, he showed up in the afternoon. There's no way she could have smoked that brisket or that.
Maybe she
that
was making it
sausage.
for herself.
No.
How did Bilbo have that much food in his pantry?
Have you
He's a
seen
hobbit.
Hobbits eat?
He's a hobbit.
They gorge on that like bread. They say it could last you for years, and they're like, "Oh, I had 8 slices of that."
All right. Yeah, fun movie. It did well at the box office. Like I knew it would. Did better than I thought it was going to do. Definitely a theater summer movie. That was like the
Mhm.
perfect summer movie.
Which I'm kind of glad to see wasn't like over. I'm not gonna say overhyped, but it got like the appropriate amount of hype.
Mhm.
I like the story. It was pretty neutral. It didn't offend anybody. Didn't like have to be super pandering to anybody. It was just a good story. So, except for the last part, I do agree that was like, I don't know what that was about, but that should have been both of them. Is the only complaint I wrote.
Missed opportunity.
I went with
Yeah.
my mom and dad and brother, and it was really fun because they were like excited because they loved the first one. It was like their favorite movie, and they were just like excited for it. I was like, that was fun.
Did they like it?
Yeah.
We did.
Like,
All
well,
right.
we almost lost Jared in one of these.
Fell
Jared-
asleep.
Jared
What?
was in the
Tell-
fridge.
Tell that story, Jared. Tell that story.
I think we've told it on something else.
Yeah, I
before,
think we did.
on
We
House
did.
6, but I was sleeping. I get woken up to everyone running into the restroom, and I was like, "What the heck? Why are they all going to the one restroom?" And they're like, "I go in there. There's a tornado. What are you doing?" And I was like, "I was asleep. You wake me up."
He is really hard to wake up. He gets really mad when you
He
try to
gets
wake him up.
mad when you wake him up.
So
I think that situation you could risk it.
You'd probably still be like, "Oh God, I had to wake up for this." God,
weren't you
stupid
working
tornado.
at the restaurant when another tornado hit?
That was the one I mentioned in Kansas, so there was like across the street.
Oh yeah,
And
and
we
you're
watched
like-
it go by, and my boss was like, "There's no way we're gonna live this. There's knives on the wall. There's all kinds of equipment."
It's like the first Twister. What do these people do?
Oh yeah.
And my like reactions, that's like they're farmers, lady. They're gonna have
I know.
tools.
What do you think they do?
Yeah.
Um.
What do you think your aunt does with her cows?
So Jared, another movie that traumatized you when you were young, Dante's Peak.
Oh God.
What
That lady
was-
just runs through the acid lake, and it's like, oh god.
Poor grandma, man. Oh
What
my
was
God.
worse, Twisters or Dante's Peak?
Or Twisters, because
Or Twisters?
they were around. Like,
were-
we're not close to a volcano, so I was like,
You're
"Eh."
not worried about a lady running through a lake.
That was horrific. She's like, "I'll push you," and then her whole bottom half is like getting disintegrated.
Yeah.
Like,
Dude.
oh.
That's
It's
pretty
either that or-
horrific.
It's either that or volcano.
And then the children are just watching it happen, like as she's doing it. And they're like, "Oh!"
I love the children. All right. Oh, Luna's attacking.
Get him.
Is that the last word on Twisters, guys?
Think
All
so.
right.
If you feel it,
Chase it. If you chase it, feel it. All right. So if you feel it, throw us some subscriptions and some likes. And also,
we'll be watching a special movie very soon.
very soon, notify yourself for even more good stuff to come. And we will see you in next time. Bye.